Welcome to the show. We have a great one today. It's going to be sick. We've got two alums from our in-your-face game of the week, Virginia Loyola. We've got on today Tim McGeeney, Loyola grad, and Garth Appelt, Virginia grad. As always, on a Saturday morning, we're going to go do our picks, and we're going to run down using Lacrosse Vegas Lines. We actually have an announcement that we're going to do later on early next week about future shows, so stick with us in regards to that. But this is going to be a beauty. We're going to run through our lines. But first, let's introduce our panel. As always, we got Andy Towers, and then we have Tim McGeeney, three-time All-American out of Loyola. And we have Garth Appelt, two-time All-American out of Virginia, also a Team USA U19 player as well. Garth, we'll start with you. What are you kind of doing today for our listeners out there? A lot's been spoken about. You know, obviously you were a very decorated player during your time playing for Virginia, but it's always cool to see what are you doing now. Garth, what are you up to these days?
Well, the last 13 years, I have been living in New Canaan, Connecticut, and the only reason that I came to this town was because...
I'm sorry to hear that, by the way. I'm very, very sorry to hear that.
The only reason I came here was because when we played in a U19 All-Star game against the Ivy League All-Stars, we played a scrimmage at Wilton High School, and I stayed with Andy Towers. And we actually lost that game. That was the only game we ever lost to a team that had Tom Towers on it, I think, right, Andy?
Yeah, it did. And Boyd, and I think Boyd played as well. I don't know, but I do remember us getting into an altercation at an intersection that night, Garth. Remember cross shaft?
May or may not have happened. But I was lucky enough to meet Andy Towers, and I played with him. It was a privilege to play with him in Australia. We won the first U19 championship in 1988, and
yes, we did.
He went to college with my wife, and I moved to New Canaan because of him. And when I got here, he was coaching. I don't even know where you were coaching at the time. I don't think it was at Dartmouth yet, but in 2003. But he told me to get involved with the youth program, and I started coaching, and I ended up becoming the president of the New Canaan Lacrosse Association. And now our 2017 class is probably one of our best classes ever. Andy has gotten to coach the team with my father actually in the summertime, which is kind of a cool thing. And my dad, Big John, Big Poppy, he actually coached Tim McGeeney in high school, I think.
Yes,
for a good
absolutely.
Period of time.
Yep, coached me and all my brothers.
And Big George, who was a world team player, probably one of the fiercest guys I've ever seen. I played at Virginia, and one of our coaches was a guy named Mike Caravana. And Virginia
Denison.
Played at yes, Denison coach. And Virginia played at UMBC one year, and I think Mike couldn't move his left arm for like a week after the game, and still talks about that game and says that the scariest he's ever been on a lacrosse field. But so I've been doing a lot of youth stuff, coaching Eclipse Lacrosse. Helped start that with a bunch of people here in New Canaan, and Andy's been involved very heavily with that. And one of my big passions is kind of trying to get the rules of the game and youth lacrosse kind of solidified and get U.S. lacrosse to really kind of step forward. They've started to do that, which I think can only be a good thing. It's kind of crazy when fifth graders in Yorktown, which is 12 miles away, have long poles and have three-step hitting. And in our league, we have one-step hitting in eighth grade, and I don't even know when the long poles come in seventh or something. So anyway, that's about it. I'll let Timmy talk.
Great. Thanks, Garth. I actually just moved back to Pennington, New Jersey, which is where my wife is originally from. Spent the last 3 years down in the hotbed of lacrosse, Memphis, Tennessee, coaching coaching a program. It's best known for the movie The Blind Side. It's where Michael Orr attended school, Briarcrest Christian. So I had an opportunity to maintain my full-time job as a portfolio manager for an investment advisory firm here in New Jersey, and moved my family, my wife, and our 2 kids down to Memphis, and ran a program for 3 years. So that was something I'd always wanted to do. Had an awesome experience. Our kids went to Briarcrest and did that for 3 years. And that was encapsulating everything. I was coaching the 3rd and 4th grade team, overseeing 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, and then coaching the JV and varsity programs. And you actually have some really good talent. One of my players actually just signed a national letter of intent to play football at Tennessee. So there's some great athletes down there. Oh, wow. Absolutely. Great. He could, if he grew up here, I told him he would be a Division I athlete on the lacrosse field. He could probably play short stick D midi for any one of the schools that we're going to talk about today, but did that for 3 years, moved back.
Hey, Timmy, real quick before you finish, just to interrupt because I have an attention span deficiency. Can you parallel that kid who's going to Tennessee to play football from an athlete/player in our generation, our era of players from sort of in late 80s to mid 90s? Who would you say that this player that is going to Tennessee to play football reminded you most of as from a guy from our generation?
John Reese. If he
he's a baller like that.
Yeah, if he could have. Now again, he was tall. He's 6'2", probably a bit faster than John, but I mean, he's a throwback. When I saw him play, he was just the midi that you could keep out on the field. I mean, we didn't have a lot of numbers, so our midfielders, it was old school lacrosse. It was Lars Tiffany. It's, guys, let's just play lacrosse. It's a player's game. Go out there and play. Now, again, he didn't have the stick skills, because he'd only been playing. My first year down there was his first year of lacrosse. He had never played it before. But if you give him maybe 4 more years and get him in the weight room, I mean, he's going to go to Tennessee as an athlete. He's going to play either defensive back or wide receiver or slot receiver or return man. But that's who he reminds me of. I played with the Bobby Curry, who did all the little things as well. Didn't wear arm pads.
Number 2. That was number 2. The little short number 2.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
was just an animal.
Tough as hell, that guy.
Played every face-off, was our, before you specialized, he was our short stick D midi, played offense, scored goals, did a little bit of everything. So, it was a tremendous opportunity. We moved back here. I'm actually now doing, and if anybody wants to jump in, I'm doing for the Lafayette Leopards. I'm doing all of their games. I'm doing play-by-play and color for all the Lafayette games this year. They actually have a wonderful platform, the Lafayette Sports Network, and that's in partnership with the Patriot League, powered by various Campus Insiders, I believe. Yeah, got to get that plug. Yep. Got to get that plug in. I'm doing that and just helping out. I do some things with Project 9 and do a lot of player development. Give some presentations to schools talking about leadership and what it really means to be a well-rounded student athlete. So that's it on my end.
Awesome. That's incredible. Incredible backgrounds from both players, former players, still giving back to the game, which is awesome. But let's get right into it, gentlemen. This is the best part of the week for Andy and I, and making picks, the culmination of the week. But let's start with the non-top 20 picks, which are simply lines that Lax Vegas Lines pumps out that are not in the top 20. First up, we've got Detroit heading to Columbus, Ohio to play Ohio State. Detroit is getting 6.5, which means Ohio State is favored by 6.5 goals on the road. The over-under here is 21.5. We will start with Garth. Garth, what is your thoughts on this one?
I'm pretty sure that Ohio State will be ready for this game. It's a lot of points, but I think I'm going to go with Ohio State. I've got a feeling this year that these guys are going to bring it together and challenge it. I mean, I think the Big Ten is going to be huge this year. It's going to be this is the year for them to really step into the spotlight, and I'm going to take Ohio State.
How about the over on there, Garth?
21.5.
I'm going to go with 21.5. I'm going to take Ohio State. Oh, the over under. I'll go the over. Yes.
Perfect. Tim, what do you got?
I'm going to go in this matchup. I'm going to mix it up a little bit. Early season. I'll go with Detroit. Again, 6 points. I'll take those. I'll take those points, and I'll also take the over.
Awesome. AT, who do you got?
I am not impressed with Ohio State's offense. I'm impressed with the team. I think Nick does an unbelievable job. They got a stud face-off guy. But I think that the goalie for Detroit is going to show up, not to the point where they end up knocking off the Buckeyes. I don't see that happening. But I do see them covering 6.5 goals. And so the Detroit goalie and what I think in the early season is a offense that hasn't found their stride yet. I'm going to take the under. So I got Detroit and the under.
I'm going to do very much the same. I'm going to do the same because I do think this game is going to mimic a lot like we saw last night, Duke High Point. I think that Detroit's going to come out and they're going to junk it up. They're going to zone it up. They're going to slow the pace of this game down. I do think their goalie in Cage is a stud, and he has the ability to make a lot of saves, which should also keep the score low. And I do think while Ohio State and I do agree with what Garth said, this is the Big Ten's year. I really do think that they're going to come in heavy. I've got Ohio State on the win, but not enough to cover 6.5. That is a large spread, simply because Detroit doesn't want to get it to that high of a score. So I got you, AT, and I have Detroit plus 6.5, and I have the under as well. Next up on the docket, we have Boston University traveling only 30 minutes away to UMass Lowell. BU is favored by 4.5 goals, and the over-under here is 18.5. Garth, roll it back to you. What do you got here?
I like Boston U and the under. That's what I'm going with.
Boston U and the under on this one. Good. Timmy, what do you got?
Yeah, I like Boston as well. We'll see what happens at the face-off X. I think Boston's got an unheralded goalie as well, so I am also going to take Boston and the under.
AT, what do you got?
You know what? There's an opportunity to stick out here, but I'm not confident enough to do it. So I am right in line with these two guys. I like Eddie Stevenson a lot as a coach. I think he's one of the best coaches out there, and I think he's going to have his guys ready to play. I'm not sure that Sam Talco will be facing out. He's healthy and facing off for BU. But I do trust Carson Bannister in the net to hold them down. And so I also like BU and the under.
I see this one's tough. I'm going with Lowell here. I am going to take the opportunity here. I am down on picks with AT over the course of the last couple of weeks, so I've got to gain some ground here. I'm going with UMass Lowell to cover here, and I've got also the over as well. The hyphenator is going to do great things in Cage this year, as we know.
The hyphenator.
The hyphenator. And Sam Talco, as we know, regardless of whether he's hurt or not, is going to do well at the face-off X. I think that BU in general, even though they have young leadership and a lot of juniors, they are going to get more and more experience. These are games like Providence, they're local, that will put BU into a test early on. But I do have a lot of faith in Ed Stevenson. He's gaining ground over there at Lowell. And you just never know the next new guy he's going to have from up north because he's doing a lot of recruiting up there. So I've got Lowell to cover this, and I definitely have the over. I see a 10-11, 10-12 kind of game.
Stop hyphenating Stop hyphenating your names out there. All right, settle down.
Yeah. No, but
pick one. Okay, pick one. Pick one.
He's officially the hyphenator from now on, though. So I like that nickname for him. He's a good goalie, and he deserves it. So we got two others. We got Lehigh Jacksonville, Bucknell Bryant. We'll start with Lehigh Jacksonville. We've got Lehigh going to Florida. I feel like this is a trap game, gentlemen. Lehigh is favored by 3.5 goals, and the over-under is 21. Garth, coming back to you. What are your thoughts on here?
I'm kind of torn here just because I know how Lehigh plays, and they're extremely disciplined and have big grinders. But I think this whole Jacksonville thing can really take off, and I think they're going to come out with a brand of lacrosse that we haven't seen for a while from these guys. I mean, it's a bit like Virginia. Sure, it's a work in progress, but I'm going to go with Jacksonville on the over. I think there's some good thing that's going to go on down there. I mean, you just take a look at their website. They're all jumping around, and they've got all kinds of crazy stuff going on. And I know that they're loosey-goosey. I mean, that locker room is going to I mean, I'm getting phone calls from people trying to recruit Connecticut kids down there. I'm not sure we've got the right kind of kids for them. We're not a little bit too tight up here, but I'm going with Jacksonville in the over.
I like it. I like it. Tim, what do you got here?
I'm going to stick with the Patriot League foe, Lehigh, and go.
I knew you'd do it. I knew you'd do it.
I am. Coach Cassis, I think we'll have the boys ready to play. They're going to be glad to get out of the Lehigh Valley and get into some sunshine. Can't wait to see what happens down at Jacksonville. It's great for the game. But today I'm going to take Lehigh and the under.
Interesting. I agree with what Garth's saying. I think that Jacksonville is going to be a team on the rise, but I'm not positive that this early in the season they're going to have it. If this game was played toward the end of the year and the Jacksonville team had, 10, 12 games under their belt, under those two guys, Galloway and Casey Powell, I think that this game, I would take Jacksonville at the end of the year, but I'm not positive that they're going to be able to get it done on the defensive end here. While John Galloway is a great coach, he's not actually going to be in goal for them. And I think they're going to have trouble holding down Lehigh. I do think they're going to play fast. I think they're going to push it in transition, and I think they're going to be able to score goals on Lehigh, but I don't think they're going to be able to hold Lehigh down enough to cover 3.5. I see like a 15-10 victory. So I've got Lehigh, and I've got the over.
I am enamored by the website. I'm going to take Jacksonville here. I think they're
Have you seen E.J. Thurman? E.J. Thurman is 6'4", 225.
Oh, my God.
Who's that?
So I got Jacksonville here taking the points, and I've got the over as well. The assumption is here that if Jacksonville wants to lead the country in shots and ground balls in the year, well, they're going to have to scrap it up and get lots of shots. Hopefully they're not shooting at 10% and they're shooting at somewhere north of 25, and my prediction comes true here. So I've got Jacksonville on the points, and I've got the over as well. Next one up, another Patriot League contest or Patriot League team in here, Tim. I wonder who you're going to go with.
I know. We'll see.
We're going to start with Garth here, but Bucknell at home favored by 2.5 points versus the Bryant Bulldogs of Smithtown, Rhode Island. 23.5 is the over-under. Very high over-under on this one. Garth, what do you got here?
Well, I talked to the guys down in Charlottesville, and they said that this Bucknell team was a damn good team. And in fact, I think Bucknell beat Virginia. They scored most of their goals in the fourth quarter when there's subbing going on. But for the most part, I got a pretty good feeling from the UVA coaches and players actually that Bucknell was a legit team. So I'm going to go with Bucknell, and I'm actually going to go with the over. I think that Bucknell is a scoring machine. If they can score 14 goals on UVA in 4.5 quarters, I think they can score maybe the same against Bryant. So I'm going to
Tim,
go Bucknell and the over.
Perfect. Tim,
I think Bucknell has one of my favorite goalies to watch, Klipstein. So no surprise here. I'm going to take Bucknell, and I'm going to go with the over.
Wow. 18.
Yeah, word is he was phenomenal down in Charlottesville.
Yeah,
he's excellent.
That's Clipper's little brother. That's Klipstein's little brother, right? The littlest one.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I agree with both of these guys. I think that Will Sands is a first-team All-American candidate. And if Bucknell can get to the quarterfinals, I think that he's got a great shot at getting that. I think he's one of the best, 5-6 attackmen in the country. I really do. I also agree with Timmy. I love the Bucknell goalie. I also love the Bucknell faceoff guy, although he's going to have his hands full against Kenny Massa, who is a stud for Bryant. So the fact that they're playing at home, I think that their offense is explosive as well. They return a ton of players. I like Bucknell to score about 13 goals. And I can see them holding Bryant to 9-10 goals. I'm going to go Bucknell, but I'm going to take the under. 23.5 is a big number. So I got Bucknell and the under.
I have very much the same with AT here. I've got Bucknell taking this down, but I think 23.5 is very large. They scored 14 goals against Delaware to beat them at the very end of the game, but the pace of the game was an 11-7, 11-8 type of game. I can see that. But Bryant's defense is very good.
Very good.
And you're going to have a battle at the face-off X, which I think slows this pace down. Plus, Bucknell is notorious for 10-man riding, which naturally slows down the game, believe it or not. So I've got Bucknell covering 2.5, but I definitely have the under in this. Last one of the non-top 20 games, we've got Robert Morris at home in Pittsburgh versus the Kentucky Bellarmine squad, the Knights. Robert Morris is currently favored by 3 goals. The over-under here is 24 goals. This will probably be a shootout, but I will let Garth speak for himself. Garth, let us know your pick.
I have to tell you, this is one I don't have a lot of feel for. So I'm going to go with
up to the whim of the people who request these lines. That's what.
I'm going to go Robert Morris and the under.
Tim, what do you got?
All right, I'll go with our boys in Kentucky, and I will take the over.
AT.
All right. I think 3 is too much for RMU. So I've got Bellarmine, and again, with all the Canadians on RMU, the game's going to be played fast. I got Bellarmine in the over.
You've got Bellarmine +3 in the over. Is that correct, AT?
That's correct.
I have Robert Morris. This is going to be a 5-6 goal game win, and I've got this somewhere around 30 goals. So I have this as the over. Robert Morris, if they definitely beat the spread, it's going to be by 5 or 6 goals. They might get to 20 themselves. And it's not to say that Bellarmine's not a good team, but I just don't think the gap is going to close, but it's going to be somewhere north of 25 goals. That's what I got. So we are off. Before we get into the top 20, I'm going to give a shout-out to our sponsor, Sisu Mouth Guards. I had the opportunity to go to the U.S. Lacrosse Convention, and we were set up with Sisu in our booth, and it was incredible to see how kids out there know what a mouthpiece is. It's kind of like gloves. It's incredible. This mouthpiece is it's $20. It molds to your mouth, obviously like any others. But the cool thing is it sticks to your mouth, so you can actually talk with it. You can drink. You can do all that stuff. You don't need to ever take it out of your mouth, which is huge. And the other part is you can put it back in warm water, and you can remold it to your mouth the next game. So really, really cool stuff coming out of Sisu Mouth Guards, and we appreciate their sponsorship. But let's head right into the top 20. Last night, Duke covered the spread on a 10-5 win over High Point. They also were under It's a 15 goal. A lot of people on Twitter were talking about how 18.5 was a little too low. A lot of people taking the over there, but looks like the guys at Lacrosse Vegas Lines nailed everyone, which is, I mean, they don't hit them all, but sometimes they do, and this one was the case. But we'll start with the first game. Going in, we've got UNC favored by 9 goals to Furman. They're going to Furman, not that it's a far road trip for them, but the over-under here is 22 goals. Garth, talk to me.
I mean, I feel so bad for Richie Meade. Every time I look at LaxPower to check out the score, he's always losing by like half a goal, which is I didn't even know that was possible. I mean, they lost to Vermont, I think, right?
Yeah, OT.
By one in the OT. And a lot of people know this, but Richie Meade coached at UNC before he coached at Navy. So I think UNC is a big game for him. 9 points. Oh God, I can't go against Bresh. He's my high school teammate, so I'm gonna him and Metzi. I'm gonna have to go with them, and I'm gonna go with the over just because I think Carolina's gonna control the ball at X. I don't think Furman has enough face-off guys in the second half. I don't think they're even gonna touch the ball. So I'm going Carolina in the over.
Great. I'm going to go. I'm going to take the under here. At 9 points is a lot. Coach Meade does a fantastic job. I think they were 0-4 in 1-goal games last year, so it'll be closer. They have obviously a little bit of tape on UNC, but I'm going to take Furman, and I'm going to go with an over.
AJ.
All right. As I said in past couple podcasts, I think this is the year of Carolina's defense. I agree with Garth 100%. I think Stephen Kelly's going to control the X. I think he's frankly the best face-off guy in the country. I think he might be a player of the year type candidate just in the way that he controls so much of the game. And I think that Carolina takes a major step forward defensively this year, so I think they're going to hold Furman down. And, you know, Metzi in his third year, he's the best offensive coach out there, and I think that they're going to put up 16, 17 goals, and I think they hold Furman down to 5. So again, that's right on the 22 mark. I'm going to go with Carolina laying 9. And I am also going to take the over, hoping that Bresh coaches to cover, like Joe Pa used to.
I've got Carolina covered last week on 8.5 against UMBC. I think that Furman is a better team than UMBC. I've got Carolina here covering 9. And I've got the over as well because I think that very much the same justification that Andy had with 17, 18 goals. I do think that Furman will get a couple more than, say, 5. But those are towards the end of the game for a little bit of a backdoor cover here. So I've got Carolina -9, and I've got the over on that one. Next up is a big one. Maryland Navy going to Annapolis to play Navy. We've got Maryland favored by 4.5 goals to Navy here. Navy coming off a loss against Johns Hopkins. But the over-under here is 20.5. Garth, what do you got here?
I got to see Maryland play in a scrimmage 2 Saturdays ago, and I saw something I've never seen before. I saw Matt Rambo get the ball at X, and then he ran around the goal, and he had a pick at goal line extended, and then he had a pick at 45 degrees, and then he ran around and got to the center of the cage from 17 and shot it, and the goalie never saw it. He just turned around and I'd like to get 2 picks to get a shot, and he ran halfway around the goal. He's incredibly good. One of the better kids I've seen, and I can't figure him out to save my life because he just kind of looks like a big meatball out there.
He does.
The goalie was not great, but I think will be passable. Defense played good. Face-offs, they were really good. I didn't like what I saw from Navy last week. I'm going to go Maryland, like in a 15-5 game. I'm going to go Maryland in the under.
Wow.
I think Maryland blows. I don't think Navy. I think Navy lives and dies on the face-off. People don't realize it, but they play really hard on the face-off. They gave Yale a lot of trouble last year, and I think Maryland's really stepped their game up on the face-off. So I'm going with them. They got a big giant guy. I don't know who he is, but he's tough as nails.
Henningsen, stud.
He's a stud. Timmy.
All right. One of my best friends growing up went to the Naval Academy, grew up 20 minutes from the academy. Love it. Love the tradition. Coach Soul's done a nice job. He's been given some time there. But Casey Reese, you watched Navy last year against Brown. He had 5 goals, 5 of their 10. He's such a dynamic player that they don't have this year. I do like Kern, though, the freshman in goal. I know he only had about a 45% save average against Hopkins, but I really like his style of play. They've got some answers there, but I've got to go 4.5. I got to go Maryland in the over.
AT.
This is I tell you, these LVL guys really do a good job because it puts you right in an uncomfortable position. I think Brady Dove's a top 7 face-off guy in the country. I think he is awesome. Obviously, for those that watched the Hopkins game, I thought he crushed a great group. Statistically, it didn't reflect actually how much he dominated. However, today, he's going to lose. Their group is going to lose. Maryland has the best face-off group with Isaiah Davis, another hyphenator, Roosevelt in the wings, and Henningsen at the X. I see Maryland winning the draws, and I see Maryland playing slowly. And I just don't see Navy having enough momentum. I see like 11-4 victory for Maryland. So I'm going to take Maryland, but I'm going to take the under.
I'm going to go the opposite. All you guys have Maryland. I think that Navy's got a little bit in them. I do think that Johns Hopkins is a stronger squad than people are reading into. And so from that standpoint, coupled with the fact that you got the kid Jack Ray, who is, the next Garrett Sewell of the Patriot League, and you've got yourself Grayson Terrain. You've got a great goalie. I do agree with you, Tim. I loved him in the process, too, when he was a recruit. I love Ryan Kern and what he brings to the table. People also don't realize, I'm pretty sure he's not a true freshman. He went to the Naval Prep first. So that is also an added bonus, if I am correct, where he's not coming into college lacrosse necessarily like a normal freshman would. He's had experience there, so that helps. So I do have them covering 4.5. I do have Maryland winning outright. I just think that I think the Brady Dove and Henningsen matchup is going to be a fun one. I do think Henningsen does lift up that matchup. Rambo's going to be a little bit too much for the Naval defense, but they do have a good defense. So this is going to be a fun game to watch. I've got the over on this one. I got Maryland or maybe plus 4.5, and I've got the over. We got like a 10 or 12-11 type game or 12-10 type game. Next one up, number 16, Villanova, favored by 6.5 against New Jersey, Monmouth. Garth, what do you got? The over-under on this one is 23.
I think that, Villanova last year with their quick start, I think they were the 7-1 at one point. They got up to, as high as number 4 or 5, and then ran into the Brown buzzsaw. I was at that game with Tommy Towers, and I'll be honest with you, that game could have been 20-1 in the first half.
Before or after the casino? Did you guys go to the casino before or after that?
It was before. It was a beautiful day, actually. But I think that these Fracaro kids, they got one more year together under their belt. I like them. I don't know. There's something about Villanova that makes me want to root for them. I don't really understand the coach that well, just because he never recruits any of our kids. He won't even return our phone calls, I don't even think. But I like Jack Kerr and the Fracaro brothers. I think I'm going to go with Villanova, and I'm actually going to go with the under just because of the weather. I think it's. I'm not a big believer you can score that many goals in this weather.
Jimmy.
All right. I actually, my 1 year as a volunteer at the college level was at Rutgers, and our face-off man was the Monmouth head coach, Brian Fisher. Love what Fish is doing. Had some great experience, obviously, with his time out in Notre Dame. But I think the Ficaros are going to cover the spread by themselves. So I'm going to go with Villanova, and I'm going to go with the over.
AT.
I'm with both of these guys. I think that the Ficaros, I think they're nephews of Vinny and Steven Sombrado, if I'm not correct. I think this is the game where Jake Ficcaro scores 10 goals, as he's done once a season for the last 3 years or 8 years, however long he's been there, although I've been in that position to
like
make fun of longevity, yeah. Nova's going to be too much for them. 23 goals is a lot. I think Fish does an awesome job at Monmouth, but I just think that Nova has a unique offense. I think they're going to win the face-offs with Paul Modesto, and they're just going to have too much offense. I see them winning 75 to 80% of the draws, and Monmouth not having an answer for them on the defensive end. So I've got Nova, and I've got the over.
I've got Villanova in this one as well. You said the over? You said 23 was
yes,
a lot.
Over. Nova over.
You got the over.
It is a lot, but
okay.
I'm still taking it.
I got Villanova -6.5. I do think the Ficaros are going to be great, but I really think the difference maker, as you mentioned, AT, is Paul Modesto. That is going to be the difference maker for Villanova. And I do have the over in this one because I do think it gets one-sided in the end of the game. I think Fish does a great job in keeping his team corralled for the first 3 quarters, but I think 4 is too much against the Wildcats out of Nova. Next up, you got Rutgers, number 19 Rutgers, favored by 4.5 against the Johnnies from Queens. We've got 20 over/under, very low. Garth, what do you think here?
I like Rutgers this year. I think they did a lot of good things at the end of last year. They really kind of started to scare people. I like the way they play. I like Hennenberg. I think he's a good player. I think this kid, I think it's Edelman. Is it Edelman, the goalie? He's a great player, and I got a guy in town named Jamie Connolly who tells me every day how great they are. So I'm going to go with Rutgers just because if I didn't, I'd get in trouble. And I'm going to go with the under again. And I said there's a kid, Altmans, that you ought to look out for. A very good player. See what he does this week for Rutgers. He's kind of a newbie. But I'm going Rutgers in the under.
Awesome. Timmy.
Great. Rutgers, the site of my first ever lacrosse game in college. Also very familiar with Coach Brecht. He was on that same staff my time at Rutgers, and Brian did a great job at Siena, obviously, moved to Loyola, and now is at the helm of Rutgers. Early in the season, I know they've got some injuries, very high on their young goalie as well. So I'm going to take Rutgers in the under.
AT.
I'm a huge fan of both of these coaches. Jason Miller, he's done a great job. He struggled last year, and they lose a lot off a team that didn't have a lot last year. And I think Brian Brecht has Rutgers going in the right direction. Clearly, I think that I don't know if they got screwed, but they were a top team last year that put fear into anyone that they stepped in the field with. Even though they lost a great offensive player during the preseason, I think that they're going to have more than enough on the offensive end. I got Rutgers and the over.
I want to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm okay with losing this pick because I want the Johnnies to be good, but I feel like if they don't cover here, they're in deep trouble. And especially with exactly the reasoning that AT has, I'm going to take Johnny's plus 4.5 here. And because I like St. John's has just not been very good over the last few years, and they've had some seriously good players one making a massive impact at the next level in the MLL right now. And I just feel like, look, if there's a season, you got to look to this season as being the big one. So, they've got to make an impact now. I'm going to take, I apologize, what's the over-under on this one? This one
20.
is
20.
20. I'm going to take the over on this one. I think 20 is a little too low for these two teams. I think they're going to shoot. So I've got 20, over on 20. Next up, we got Hopkins at Homeward versus UMBC. The spread is 7 goals, and the over-under is 23.5. What do you got here, Garth?
What's the home team here?
The Johns
at
Hopkins is the home team.
At
Down
Hopkins.
the street, UMBC is driving 6 minutes to Hopkins.
I think Hopkins is really underrated this year. I went down and watched them play against Denver. I was right on the sidelines, and it was one of the first, I don't know why, but the last couple of years I just felt like Hopkins was missing some midfielders that were athletic. And when I asked Daddy Russ why they can't recruit athletic midfielders, he said, well, they have them, but they're always hurt. And I think they had like 3 guys that were hurt. I was not impressed with, or I shouldn't say not impressed. I was impressed with Hopkins so much that I wasn't impressed with Denver. It was a real battle, and I like Hopkins this year. I think they'll cover the 7, and I'm going to take the under again. I still think I'm a cold weather guy. I don't think you can score as many goals in the cold weather. So,
Jimmy.
Great. UMBC, similar to Navy, first 2 games of the year for them against potential Final Four teams. But I think Rimo's going to do a great job. I have my 2 older brothers are both All-American defensemen at UMBC. Got a soft spot in my heart, but I just love what I saw from Hopkins. They were running 9 guys, I think 27 overall, just in the first 3 quarters of the game. They're going to figure some things out. Stanwyck wasn't even that big of a factor in the game against Navy, but they got solid goaltending with Logan there. Really like his style of play. Loved how he played for those years at Michigan. So I'm going to go with Hopkins and the over.
AK.
I agree with both Garth and Timmy here. I think that Joel Tinney changes this team. He's a first-team All-American candidate at midfield for sure. I think that Craig Mataraz, wins 65% of the draws. I agree with Timmy. I think Gerald Logan gives them consistency in the goal that they have not had in the last few years there. And beyond that, I think he gives them consistency on the clear. I think they cleared at 90% versus Navy, and Navy is a good riding team. I see JHU enjoying their ability to put up big numbers on the offensive end. I like JHU and the over.
I like JHU as well. I like JHU -7. I think it's going to be too much. It's a buzzsaw for UMBC early, and I've got the over as well. Next up, Fairfield goes all the way down to Richmond, and probably one of the bigger, weirder lines is that the favorite is not the home team. You've got Fairfield favored by 1 going into Richmond, and then you also have the over-under at 19, very low. What do you got here, Garth?
Well, I'm a little bit worried about Richmond this year. At the end of last year when they had some injuries, especially that UVA loss, which was very uncharacteristic, it felt like that team's psyche got broken a little bit. And I know Chamati pretty well through Mike Regan, a mutual friend of AT's. You guys know him pretty well. I think they're going to bounce back. I'm going to take Richmond at home just because I really like their stadium. I think it's cool. And it's going to be pretty good weather, and there's going to be sundresses and hopefully a little sunshine. So I'm going to go Richmond I do like Fairfield a lot this year, but I'll take Richmond in 1 and the over.
The over. Timmy.
Great. I'm going to go with one of my clients. His grandson is Will Fox, who is one of the face-off men for Fairfield. have a nice exactly. I have a really nice tandem there. I think that's going to allow them to control the game. I'm going to go with Fairfield and the over.
I am going to go with. I think Richmond. I think both these teams are really well coached. I think Richmond's a little bit better coached. I really love the job that Shimani has done. But I'm with Timmy. I think Fox wins the face-offs for Fairfield. I like the Fairfield goalie, Tyler Bering, better. I like the return of their entire defense. They got some good long poles. Even though it's at Richmond, I think that Fairfield covers this. I see about a 10-8 win. So I'm going to take Fairfield and just under.
So it's me, and I'm coming back to reality here. Sorry about that, guys. I've got I've got Fairfield covering this. I think Fairfield's going to be a big-time team this year, and it's going to scare a lot of people. So I've got Fairfield in this one, and then I have the over. I think there's going to be a lot of goals scored in this one. Next up, we've got Penn State going to Geneva, favored by 4 goals, over under 20.5. Garth, we're going to start with you. This is an interesting one as well.
I'm a big Penn State fan, believer this year. I think that, Tambroni can only get so unlucky so many times. I think this kid, Grant Ament, is a fantastic player. I don't know if you've seen him play. But I don't know how he does. 5'9", 165. He's real. I get my kid to watch him play on YouTube just because he runs at full speed with his head up, left-handed and right-handed, which is, to me, the goal of an ex-attackman. If you can do that, you can do a lot of damage.
5'9", 165, Garth. That's like the same measurements as a lot of the girls you dated at Virginia.
Yeah, actually. The horse riders, the ones that are on the equestrian team.
Hockey pit, the Cooperalls. You just got to fight past the Cooperalls. Yeah.
What would you do to 5'9", 165? I think you'd kill the kid. Oh, by the way, that long waiting period was about as long as it took for Darren Lowe to pass you the ball. You just wait and wait and wait.
Just wait. I just kept cutting. And if you didn't pass it, I'd just start cutting myself.
Just cut and recut.
I'd draw the blinds and cut myself.
Timmy, what do you got? Timmy, what do you got? Quick, end this.
Yeah, absolutely. Had the fortune to watch Grant Ament at Project 9. Reminds me a lot of, to no surprise, Mark Millen. I'm worried about Penn State in the goal. But 4 points. I'll go with Penn State. They will cover, and it will be an over.
In the over. Garth, what did you have? You had Penn State in the over as well?
Yeah, Penn State over.
Penn State over. I'm with these guys. I like Penn State winning all the face-offs. I think their offense is going to be too hard to hold down for Hobart. I see them putting up 18 goals. I see about 18-12. So I'm going to take Penn State. I'm going to take the over.
I am taking Geneva. I'm taking Hobart in this one. I'm taking Hobart to cover the points. And in terms of the over-under, I think that 20.5 is a very low score. The kid, Mac O'Keefe, is going to be great. I know Grant Ament is just a powerhouse in terms of what he brings to the table. Our series is going to be great this year, but four goals is a lot. I feel like it's going to be a little bit closer than people think. They're also playing indoors up there in Geneva. That actually could benefit Penn State in the end. I've got Hobart +4, and I've got the over in this one. Next up, Denver at home playing number 17 Air Force, coming off a big win at Duke, favored by 3.5 goals. The over-under here is 22. What do you got here, Garth?
Like I said, I got to see Denver play, and I was waiting to see something Denver-like, the Cirque du Soleil of lacrosse, and I did not see it. I think they missed Zach Miller. I really do.
Yes.
And
yep.
Connor Conazares, or however the heck you say his name, people think he's an on-ball player. He really is very crafty off the ball, and there was nobody getting him the ball. I didn't see them playing as fast. I'm going to take – I don't know any of Ceramit's players, but I know him personally, and he's a great coach, a great guy. I think that this team, just looking what they did to Duke, I'm going to take Air Force and 3.5, and I'm going to go with the under.
Jimmy.
Great. I can't figure out Denver. They ended the season a very strange note for a Bill Tierney coach club. 2 1-goal losses at home, which was surprising. Mixed reviews, as Garth had alluded to in the spring. Plus, my other brother Mike was a graduate of the Air Force Academy, so got a little soft spot there. Saramit's a great coach. I think this is a great rivalry. Great game. I'm taking Air Force and the over.
AT?
I'm with these guys. I think Eric Saramet does an unbelievable job as one of the best coaches out there. Last year's game, I think Denver came back to score 2 goals down the stretch and sleepwalked for a lot of this contest. And even though they won, I think that game gives this Air Force team confidence that they can beat Denver. So I also am going to take the goals. I like Air Force, and I like the under. RD.
I have Denver covering this. I have Denver 3.5 here. I think that the Air Force team in general is going to be great. I think Trevor Baptiste is going to be too strong in this. And despite the goalie situation and obviously them recovering with Doug Gaucho, which is huge added benefit, the freshman coming in and stepping in huge. I just think the talent at Denver is just going to be too strong. Plus, it's an opener for them, home opener for them. So I've got Denver covering this 3.5, and I've got the over. I think in order for Air Force to actually cover this spread, they've got to score goals. And so I've got the over on 22. We've got 3 games left, gentlemen. 2 relatively easy picks, depending on how you view the spreads. And then, of course, we have the IYF and probably national game of the week. Next up, Syracuse at home in the Dome, favorite 7.5 against Siena. Over under 22. Garth, what do you got here?
I'm a big fan of Syracuse in the next couple years. The reason is they've started redshirting an enormous amount of players. So they started it last year. I think they had a couple the year before. So you're going to start seeing guys that are 22, 23. It's going to be like Yale hockey. Everybody, the average age is 24 years old. These kids, Mariano, Sergio Salcido, I think is a great player. I'm a big fan of Syracuse this year. I think they're going to roll the ACC and maybe all the way to the championship. I'm going Syracuse, the over, and I think they'll cover 22. They might score 18 goals in this game.
Yeah. Jimmy.
Yeah, I'm going with Cuse. I think they have one of the best first midfield lines in the country. We'll see how they develop at attack, but I'm going to take Cuse and the over.
AT?
I think Cuse wins every single face-off. I think their first midfield is too much. I don't see Siena even putting up much of a fight. I think Cuse gets to 20. I can see 20-5, something like that. I got Cuse in the over.
I don't think Siena's ever covered this game. It seems like a national opener for Syracuse and Siena every year. I remember the spread being just as similar last year and Syracuse covering. I've got the same, and I've got the over. I do think Siena will score goals, but I do have Syracuse covering. Next one, Duke, Cleveland State. We've got a 12-point favorite for Duke on the brand-new team in Cleveland State. 19 goals is the over-under, which is interesting coming off the heels of a 15-goal total performance in the game against High Point. You're probably going to expect a similar performance or style of play from Cleveland State, but is it enough, and can they get to 12 goals? Garth, what do you got here?
I have a hard time picking against Duke, but I'm going to go with Cleveland State and the over just because all dirt roads lead to Durham, and my college girlfriend went to Duke, and I had to drive there every other weekend. So I just really I can't. I'd never pick Duke. I wouldn't pick them against New Canaan High School.
Timmy, what do you got here? Timmy, what do you got?
All right. I actually was able to watch the Cleveland State-Michigan game from last week as Lafayette is taking on Michigan. So I got to watch that game. Very fundamentally sound, very young, not very deep. I think it's great for them, the schedule that they're playing. They're going to learn how to be a great team. But I got to go with Duke in the over.
AT.
I just don't think Duke has found their stride offensively. I'm not sure that their offense is very scary. I'm not sure that their defense is very scary. I know that Kyle wrote face-off X is very scary, so they're going to win the face-offs. But they just don't look like they're very scary team at this point. I'm looking at their guys, and none of those guys really strikes fear into you. And they've always had a couple of guys or more that have done that. Even Gutterding, who's their high scorer, I don't know. I'm not sold on Duke's offense. I like CSU, and I like the under here.
That's interesting. 12 goals is big, man. 12 goals is huge, but I got Duke. I got Duke covering 12, and I have the over on this one. I just think it's a little too much for CSU. They got to go all the way to Durham. That's going to be a tough road trip in itself. So I've got Duke in this one. Last game of the rundown. We've got two of our guests' alma maters on this one. At home, number 5 Loyola, Tim McGeeney's alma mater, going against number 15, Garth Appelt alma mater. Loyola in this one is favored by 1.5. The over/under here is 24.5. This is, if they think this is going to happen, it's going to be a Brown whole rebirth of Brown in Charlottesville. Garth, talk to me about UVA this year and potentially what's going to happen on this weekend.
Yeah, so I think the first scrimmage that they had against UMBC and Bucknell, Virginia was really trying to figure out how to play this style. They didn't do much scrimmaging in the fall. In fact, they might not have scrimmaged at all. They did mostly individual learning sessions. So it's going to take a little while. It looked good against Maryland. I mean, I was there in the stands, and Maryland was kind of like, what the heck is going on? These guys never come off the field. They're putting Dox Aiken and Ryan Conrad on defensive midfield, which is just outrageous. I mean, the fact that if the ball gets in their sticks on one end of the field, those two guys are phenomenal athletes. Last year's game, UVA shot 10%. They outshot Loyola by, I think, 15 shots. Loyola shot 33%. Virginia beat them in ground balls. So this game is really going to be determined in the cage. That's, the way I look at it is if our goalie can hold up. I think face-offs, they'll have a slight advantage, but we're getting better because we're putting better guys on the wing. I'm going to go Virginia. I think we can win by 2 goals, and I'm going to go the under. I don't think we'll get up there. I think it's an 11-9 game.
Jimmy, talk to me about Loyola.
Great. Yeah, I'm really excited about this squad. Ryan, you mentioned two days ago on your podcast about a sophomore slump for Pat Spencer, but you got to throw in Jacob Stover in there as well, another sophomore. And unfortunately, the sophomore slump is something that I know a lot about because the one year I wasn't an All-American happened to be my sophomore year, so it does exist. But I'm confident that those guys will be ready to go. They just have a great coaching staff. Question, will Romar Dennis step up? You've mentioned also his issues with the accuracy. He's a phenomenal athlete. He can beat almost anyone off the dodge, so we'll see. They're not very deep offensive midfield-wise, but I do think Loyola has a fantastic rope unit. I think their short stick D middies, Bagley, Mitz, Higgins are all excellent. LSMs, Fournier from Canada, Davliakos, and McNulty. Ryan McNulty, the number 1 inside lacrosse recruit. They're just trying to get him on the field. And they're going to run him at pole. Fournier and Dav, I think, are 21 and 11 combined, so they can score. Interestingly enough, Jacob Stover changed his number to 0. I'm not a big fan of that, but I guess his dad, who was a great kicker for the Ravens and the Browns, he wore number 3. So I guess Stover is pinning himself with getting some shutouts there. But it's also interesting. Van Arsdale, as Charlie Toomey said, he was the biggest recruit of the off season. He spent 21 seasons at UVA. UVA is a ground ball machine. They were number 2 last year in ground balls per game behind Brown. 5 out of the last 8 years, they were top 2 in ground balls. So we know that's a known entity. That's not going to change. Goaltending, as Garth had said, although, you know what, Kip Turner did a fantastic job at Brown, obviously tutoring Jack Kelly, but then don't forget Matt Chris and Will Round were also all Ivy. So he's going to do a wonderful job. I just don't know if it's going to be enough. Unless a Kevin Pelkey can come out of the stands like he did against Loyola in 91. He scored, Kevin Pelkey in 91 against Loyola, had 7 goals and 3 assists. I've got to go with my Greyhounds and the over.
AT.
Love it. Look, I think Virginia has a slight advantage at the face-off X. I think they win, 55%, something like that. I think Loyola definitely has the advantage in the goal. I think that you're going to see a much different, much more explosive Virginia team. I think they have one of the best returning defenses in the country, arguably the best defending pole, and Mike Howard is a stud. I just think that it's going to take them a little while to find their footing on the offensive end. And if this game was played at the end of the year, I may take Virginia, but I just think that Patrick Spencer is going to have 8 points when it's all said and done. I think that Charlie and Maddie, Vakeness, those guys are arguably the best staff out there. And I think that Loyola is going to be too much for them today. Virginia's going to score more goals than they have in the past, but I see it being about 15-12 Loyola. So I'm going to take Loyola and the over.
I mentioned before that I think Virginia's going to start a lot faster this year as opposed to years past. I think they fade out at the end of the year. In my case, I've got Virginia in this one covering, and then I definitely have Loyola finishing stronger than a Virginia team would at the end of this year's, just purely on behalf of what Lars is going to bring to the table early. And then I will have the over. I think it's going to be a huge game as well, our first 30-plus goal game of the season. But that is it for the show. Thank you
changing mine. I'm changing mine to the over. I'm changing mine to the over.
No. Okay.
Oh, boy.
It's documented, Garth. It's documented.
Thank you guys so much for coming on the show, man. It's huge to have your perspectives. I really appreciate it, guys.
Good luck today, guys.
Great.
I'm going to West School to watch Ty Towers dominate other 8th graders. It could be a 10-9 girls basketball game.
I love it, guys.
Later, fellas.
See ya.